Hi, everybody. It is the spring semester. That is insane. But hello and welcome back to CPCA Backstage Pass.
Woo! Woo!
Thank you, Nadya. My name is Maggie. I am a recent graduate of Temple's Theater Department, and I am here today with the lovely Nadya Dereskavich, who is a current senior in the music therapy program here at Temple.
It's true.
Yeah, and today we're going to be chatting with one of the new additions to our advising team, Cooper Creal.
Woo!
Hey.
Yeah. So why don't we just jump right in? Cooper, what is your background with performing arts? Like, kind of how did you get started? How did you find yourself interested in that?
Yeah, I mean, I was always singing as a child, playing my little piano and my little clarinet growing up, and
Clarinet,
I did a lot of community theater when I was a kid, so it just kind of felt like the natural choice for like undergrad studies. I think I kind of like went through a lot of phases of like, oh, I want to be a choir director, I want to be an opera singer, I want to be this, so but essentially music was always the thing that I wanted to do. So I did a lot of performing in opera in my undergrad and at the University of Nebraska, which is like where I grew up, so it was another obvious choice. It's a good time.
So did you play clarinet like before like you got into like vocal like performance? Like, was that your primary instrument?
Yeah, I mean, I like started in 5th grade band on saxophone actually, and then played that. Like
I said, we need clarinets actually.
Yeah, well, I played in like 5th and 6th grade, and then I got to 6th grade, and I was like, I'm bored of this, because sax is like so easy. I mean, to make it good sound, it's not easy, but like just I was really obsessed with like fingerings and like how to play the notes, and it's so easy on sax because you just push the octave key and then you're up an octave. But anyway, so I was like, I'm bored of this, I want to learn the clarinet. So my uncle like had a clarinet, so I like kind of taught myself.
Yeah, so you went to your undergrad at the University of Nebraska, you said?
Yes.
What was that like where, because in my head when I picture Nebraska, I just picture a wide open field. So
yeah, I mean, I think like the majority of the state is small towns in a wide open field, but
yeah.
I was like born and raised in Lincoln, which is a city of 275,000, maybe 300,000 at this point. So yeah, it's pretty urban. I mean, it's not like a walkable city or anything, like you have to have a car, but it's there was nothing rural about it. Very just like normal suburban life kind of thing. And then that's where the university is too. It's just like
cool.
Downtown essentially. So that's where I went. That's all I ever knew.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what specifically did you study in your undergrad?
It was Bachelor of Music in Vocal Performance.
Awesome. Okay, so you had done, and that was just in performance. There wasn't necessarily like an education aspect to it, or like, did you have any experience like in a club or like
club?
I don't know, like working with students?
Yeah, so I there wasn't any education as far as like public school teaching, because that was like a big, I mean at Temple it is too, just a big program at my undergrad, but I did do a lot of like teaching of private piano and voice lessons, which was like totally unrelated to the university. I just like did it privately with a studio, so that was fun. I definitely had to be really patient with the children.
Right.
Piano, which is hard, but
yeah.
So what made you come out to Temple then? Because it's definitely a big change, I would say, from what you're used to.
Yeah, I was just like pretty ready to try something new and get out of Nebraska, and a lot of people had that mindset in high school. They're like, oh, I'm not going to stay here. And I just like wasn't one of those people. I was like, oh, I like it here. And I still do like Lincoln. I would like totally live there again. but after undergrad, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot be here anymore. So, and I knew I wanted to get a master's degree because at the time I was like, I will be an opera singer. And I was like very much on that path. Like I was doing summer programs. I did opera in the Ozarks in Arkansas, and I was in like the Opera Omaha chorus.
Wow.
So like I was just like really ready to take the next step, which was grad school. So I applied pretty much only to schools on the East Coast. Just like, yeah, I was really ready for a big change, I think, just to be far away.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Temple is a school that finds a lot of those kinds of people. Like pretty much everybody I know, in my program at least, was from a smaller town or from a place that doesn't have the kind of performance scene that Philly has, which is really cool. So totally good on you. And then once you got here, what was it like? Like, do you remember like your initial first impressions of Philly or the program, or like what kind of made you go like, oh yeah, like this is the place I want to be for the next couple of years?
Yeah, well, so I came to audition, and I was like, I had so many auditions. Like I was on a plane every weekend essentially it was like this time of year actually.
Audition season
2020.
Oh wow, yeah.
So, yeah, that was also a part of it. But I was just, flying around, and I stayed with my good friend's grandmother who lives in Bryn Mawr.
Oh, cool.
And
nice.
So yeah, that was fun. And I was just like taking the train, and I was like, oh, I feel so urban and fun. And yeah, and then I had a voice lesson with my teacher, Dr. Deloach, and I was like, okay, I really vibe with this man. I think we're gonna have a good time. And yeah, and then I auditioned, and like the voice faculty were just like really welcoming and supportive and seemed excited by me, which like was always nice to feel when you're auditioning. So yeah, that was really nice. And I also just kind of fell in love with Philly walking around. I'd been to New York several times. I'd been to Boston, but I'd never been to Philadelphia. And I was like, oh, I really like this. Like it's so much, it feels a lot more intimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, I felt really comfortable here. So that was a good part of it. But then as far as like coming to Temple, the pandemic had begun at the time. So I had to really, like, no one was going to school. Everyone was like, you're so crazy for doing your master's degree, because I had all these friends who were applying to graduate programs the same time I was. And they were all like, they all decided not to go. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go. And then they were like, oh, you're psycho. But really, I had to get out of Nebraska. I was like living with my parents at the time, who they're awesome and I love them, but I just could not do that anymore. And like no one was hiring. So it was like, if I didn't get this job, or if I didn't go to school, I would, where would I work? I was like working at a grocery store at the time, doing like when people would order online and you would like shop for them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was doing that, and it was like miserable. And I was like, I can't do this. So I just thought, here's an opportunity to move, and I'm gonna do it. So yeah, pretty crazy.
Wow. Since being in Philly, do you have any like favorite like spots, or like a fond memory you would like to share that like made you feel like this was like a new home for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I think like, so when people found out that I was moving here, I think everyone was like trying to, point me in the way of some connection they had to the city, like someone's sister's cousin's best friend that lives there, it's one of those things. And so my best friend from high school, and just like best friend in general, her name is Greta. She went to NYU Shanghai for her undergrad. Yeah, Queen. And she went to school there with this girl named Izzy, who is from Malvern, which is on the main line.
Yeah.
And she, I guess, like was living in Philly at the time. I think she lives in New York now, but anyway, so I had just moved to Philly. It was probably my first day alone here. Like my parents had just left. And I was walking in Rittenhouse Square because I lived like a block from it. And it was the farmer's market, and I had never met this Izzy girl. All I knew was that she lived in Philly and that I should probably like meet up with her at some time. So I'm just like walking around, and then I hear Cooper. And I was like, this is like my first day in the city, and it's like someone's calling out for me. And I was like, Izzy? And then we just like chatted a little and got coffee. But I was like, wow, I love that that's already happening to me.
Yeah.
In the city, because I was like, something I joked about in Lincoln was that like I can't go anywhere without seeing 30 people, and I was excited to like kind of get away from that, and then the first second I'm alone, someone's like, Cooper. But yeah, it actually felt really good. So
Yeah, that's really sweet.
yeah.
That's cool.
I feel like when you're like in the city, like the chances of running into people, you know, are so low that when it does happen, it's like so much more special. So.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, totally. So then when you did come here and worked through grad school during the pandemic, I guess like what was it like in terms of like working, getting to know your cohort? Like how do you feel like that kind of was impacted by COVID, or like how do you feel like COVID affected grad school for you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, so it was really weird because, you know, it was just entirely on Zoom. I think I was a, what did they call me? Academic intern. That was my title. I was like a
Wow.
That was my like funding for my master's. So that work that I had to do was occasionally in person. Like the very first thing I did was like build plexiglass, like
Oh, for real, performance shields.
yeah, for the opera. So like that was one of the things I like came in to do. But other than that, I was just like sitting in my tiny studio apartment on Zoom entirely. But at the time I was like very independent, and I was like very like proud of how capable I was of living alone and like being alone. I wasn't ever like that lonely, but I definitely enjoyed like texting my friends while we were in class on Zoom and be like, we've never hung out, but let's just text because that's all we can do right now. Yeah, and then eventually, as you know, people started getting vaccinated more, and we would meet outside and parks and stuff, so that was nice. But yeah, I think it was hard, definitely. I mean, it was hard for everyone. And I think school was like a really nice distraction for me because I felt like it was something I was good at and it was something I could do, and it, you know, took a lot of my time. So I didn't have a lot of alone time with my own thoughts, which is always good.
Very felt.
Yeah, so that was good. And then, you know, pretty much for my second year, you know, it was just like, oh, everyone's vaccinated now. So everything was in person again for the most part. So that was really, really nice too.
That's awesome.
Speaking of like not wanting to be alone with your thoughts, since being in the city, have you like expanded on any like hobbies or like picked up any like new little like trades or anything? I remember, don't you like cooking?
I do really like
yeah
cooking. Yeah, that was kind of my big thing the first year of my master's degree. I like would make very elaborate meals, and like I still do, but I would do this daily.
Yeah, right.
Can you explain what you mean by an elaborate meal? Like,
yeah,
what does that entail?
I would like braise short ribs in like a red wine tomato sauce, and I would like season the short ribs with salt and let them sit for a couple hours, and then I'd sear them on like all 6 sides one by one, take them out of the pot, put the onions in, you know. It's just, and then they'd braise in the oven for like 4 hours, and then
oh my god,
mashed potatoes, eat with that, you know, and all for myself. Like no one was coming over. It was entirely, and then I would just eat it and be like, okay, now I have to clean it all up.
yeah.
So yeah, and I roast chickens a lot. Like I just did that the other night. Just like a whole chicken, which is a very Ina Garden of me, but I do that a lot.
But also, like, that's meal prep. So
Yeah.
that's leftovers. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's so fun, and it's so hands off. I mean, you just like tie its little feet together and then put it in the oven, and you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think I'm at the point in my schooling where I can do that yet.
no. No, we all have a phase. I had a baking phase my freshman year.
Mhm.
I was the girly bringing baked goods to class, like, hey.
Yes, we love those.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of pivoting more towards like the purpose of we are all in the same field or adjacent in that we are in academic advising. Nadya and I are peer advisors, and you are a full-time just academic advisor. So I guess kind of what inspired you to take the jump from performance to more of an academic side of things? Like, where did you start to think about how that might come into your career, and how'd you get here?
Yeah, well, I feel like this might be a really long answer, so I'm sorry.
Oh, go off, please.
But
go off.
I got to grad school thinking, oh, I'm gonna be an opera singer, and then you realize that like everyone's really good around you, and then you're like, oh my gosh, like we were all like one of the best at our undergrad, and then we're all together in masters, and you're like, and this is just one school. Like I don't know, I feel like college is really good at making you feel like you're amazing at what you do, which is like maybe problematic of me to say, but I really like thought I could make a career out of this, and I probably could have if I like really wanted to. But anyway, I got to grad school and I was like, okay, I think what I like about music is actually reading about it, writing about it, and like the more academic and scholarship type things. So then I became obsessed with getting a PhD in musicology, because the way my brain works, it's like, what's next? What's next? Gotta keep grinding. Like I'm not ever gonna just like chill. So that was kind of my Maiwa. That was kind of my idea. So I was obsessed with that, and I was like about to apply to PhD programs. And then I meet my boyfriend, who obviously wasn't my boyfriend at the time, but we were talking and hanging out, and I basically was like, wait a second, I'm like really happy with my life right now. And like I don't feel the need to be like going for the next thing right away. Like I have a whole life to live, I have time, all of that. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay in Philly because I love the city and I need a break from school, I think. So that was just kind of a realization I had, and it was just really nice. So then I was like, okay, time to apply for jobs. And I knew academic advising was something I was interested in because I am interested in like academics, and I still do want to do a PhD, probably do it at Temple. Because yeah, I think just like I've always been a nerd about curriculum and like just like, ooh, what are you gonna take? What do you have to take? When is it offered? What, professor's gonna teach it? What do you, all of that. In my undergrad, I was like such a nerd about it, and I always knew like what the classes were called. Like everyone would be like, oh, I'm in music history right now, and I'd be like, oh, music 165. Like I was the only one who like knew those things. So that kind of felt right to me. And then I saw this job was posted, and I was like, please, this is perfect. So yeah, and it's been so great because I love having the like music background that I have, and like being able to talk to students about classes and people asking like, oh, what do we learn in this class? And I actually was like, well, I can actually tell you that because I took the class, or I know what this means and all of that. So that's been really nice. And I really like talking to students about grad school, if that's something they're interested in, and like helping them. Like Maggie, I think I helped you with your like personal statement and stuff like that. Like I love that kind of stuff, and just being able to do that is like really fulfilling for me.
Yeah. That's really awesome. And also, like, as somebody who recently graduated, I really like resonate with the whole idea of like being in like a field and feeling like, oh, like always working towards what's next, like, and especially like in the performance industry, whether it's music or theater, like I feel like that's kind of the ever-present thought that's driving. And it makes sense, like I totally understand it. But I feel like we all have to find a way to come to peace with like whether or not, like how down are we actually for that.
Right.
And I feel like that's something that being an undergrad at Temple helped me figure out. And like what I am willing to freak out over, and like how many times I'm going to refresh the job board before I'm like, okay,
right,
I'm going to take a little, you know what I mean? And like, if there's one thing that I'm sure of, it's that there will always be more jobs. It will always be there. And, you know, it's not like the time isn't always now, and that's okay. Like we can take the time, we can do other things, we can do whatever, and it's still going to be there. So
yeah, I think for me, I was like, I had to be like, what are you like running away from, or like what are you so scared of like feeling if you're not constantly trying to like get to the next thing. And I think, you know, I really was lonely probably, because when Johnny and I started hanging out, and like now he lives with me, like we just like go to things all the time. We're going to the orchestra, we're going to rock shows, we're going to art museums, and we're going on hikes in the Wissahickon and all of this. It's like, these are things that I didn't do alone, that I'm just like love to be doing, and they make me so happy to like live my life in that way. And then I have this job that like lets me do that.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, this is pretty great. And that's not something I experienced as a student, which I think is why a lot of students are always like getting another degree, because this is all I know how to do. But yeah, I think I really learned how to live a different kind of life recently. That's really nice.
Yeah,
I'm taking a class this semester though.
I mean, that's the other thing that's nice about like academic arts, is like there is like a structure, like there is you know, like there is a, oh, okay, so it's sequential, I can put A plus B equals C, you know what I mean? Yeah, Nadya, how do you feel about that as a music therapist?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I really related to what you were saying about like knowing like the names of like course sections and stuff, because like that's kind of how I was, and why like I applied like to be a peer advisor, because people would always be like, oh, like I don't know what I'm supposed to do, I don't know how to do this, and I was always just be like, just look on the bulletin, like it's all right, you have the tools, just use it, you know. So I relate to that, like nerding out over advising and like wanting to kind of like use your nerd tools to help others,
right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
the way that to apply for this job, I made a PowerPoint presentation about how much I love the Doors. I was really like, hey guys, like there was one thing, it's the Doors. Literally that. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Nadya, you have any other questions for Cooper about Temple or academic advising?
If you could tell young Cooper in undergrad one word of advice.
One word?
not one word, one phrase of advice. Okay. My apologies. Based on where you are now, what would you tell him?
That's a great question. Probably just, I think I'd say relax. Your future is bright. You're going to be happy, and you can slow down. It's okay.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Great. It's very sound advice.
Yeah.
Concise.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we do have one more thing queued up. And this is the Philly speed round. This is I'm gonna set a timer for 1 minute
Oh my
in
goodness.
true game show fashion. And Nadya is gonna rattle off a list of Temple/Philly adjacent this or that questions, and
Oh.
whatever your gut impulse is, just go with it. We don't have to break them down, but yeah, you have 1 minute. There's 20.
Yeah.
Wish me luck.
Okay.
Tell me when I'm good.
Alrighty. Ready?
Mhm.
3, 2, 1, start.
Hooter or Stella?
Stella.
Cats or dogs?
Cats.
BSL or MFL?
BSL.
Fall or spring?
Spring.
Zaxby's or Richie's?
Zaxby's.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Gritty or fanatic?
Gritty.
No hearing or no sight?
Oh my god. No sight.
Milk steak or rum ham?
I don't know what that is.
Ugh. This is the Always Sunny reference.
Oh, tragic. Okay.
Oh, no answer?
I don't even know what you
Okay. Okay. Hands or feet?
Hands.
Water or wooder?
Wooder.
Virtue or sin?
Virtue.
Cherry or white?
Cherry.
Teal or crimson?
Crimson.
Pats or Genos?
Oh, I kind of like Pats.
Pub crawl or pub brawl?
Pub crawl.
Fireworks or bikers?
Is.
Sucks. You made it to 17, so
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good.
solid.
All right.
There were some that I didn't catch that were not Temple related. Oops. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we have fun. Yeah, thank you so much for chatting with us for a little bit and sharing all of your words of wisdom about undergraduate school, graduate school, academic advising, the whole thing.
Love.
Yeah. Music students, if you are a general music student with some performance capabilities, if you go into the scheduling system into U Portal in the Student Tools tab, you might see that you are able to make an appointment with Cooper right now. He is seeing students. He has been seeing students, which has been so wonderful for the past semester, I think, that you've been here. So get in here, talk to Cooper. He has a lot to share. He has a lot to help you with. He's very savvy. He really is. So come chat with your academic advisor, Cooper. And feel free to keep following us on the CPCA Instagram at CPCA_advising and on TikTok at CPCA_advising. We share lots of little updates about academic planning, especially towards ad drop and priority reg. So keep an eye on that. Seniors, if you have not applied to graduate, you have missed the deadline, but you can still apply. Get those in as soon as possible so that we can get you all set up to graduate in the spring of 2023. And I think that's all we have today. Nadya, do you have anything else you want to add?
No.
Good
Stay in
birds.
school.
Already. Well, thank you all for joining us on the
You
CPCA
guys.
Backstage Pass podcast. We will be seeing you very soon and chatting with our other newest advisor, Maiwa, who is working with students. So, already. Thanks, guys. Bye.